Welcome in. We are going to get started here in just a couple minutes for the 90-day best-selling book plan. How exciting. So glad you're here, Janet. And I know many of you are going to be watching the replay of this training. Hi, Terry. So good to see you. We're going to let everyone have about 1 or 2 minutes before we get started to arrive. And then we are recording so that everyone who wants to do this on their own time will have the opportunity to do so. So glad that you're here. Those of you who are just jumping on, we are doing our 90-day how to figure out the timeline and the how are we going to get these books done. And we're going to be going through a process today around that, how I figure out how I'm getting my books done on a certain timeline. I'm going to guide you through that process. But how is everyone? I want to hear, we got our live audience doing this exciting process. How do we plan out doing a book in 90 days, getting a manuscript done in 90 days? So I'm going to take you through that. If you want to have the workbook up, I'm going to screen share it so that you can see it. And if you're watching the recording later and need that, just remember to DM or email us and we will send that to you. All right. So yes, this is really exciting. We will take the full hour probably to go through this process. So just make sure if you can, silence your phones and have this is we're going to deep dive into how you set up the actual structure, not of the content of the book today. We're talking about how do you get a book done on a certain timeline? How do you figure out what your schedule is going to be? How do you figure out making the time to do it? Going through that type of thing. So who's excited? Are we excited to dive in and do this? I am for sure. And if you're not now, maybe you will be at the end, hopefully feeling like we've broken this down a little bit more. So let's just take a breath and just an invitation to let go of any scarcity thinking. All right. Before we do a process like this, I think it's really powerful to let go of if there's an idea of scarcity of time, scarcity of energy, scarcity of any kind of resources. What we want to do is focus in on an abundance mindset, on that Einsteinian time, on no matter what it's been like up until now, to make commitments and keep them. This could be a time that changes everything. Like, that's all possible. Just because something's been a certain way in the past doesn't mean it's a certain way in the future. And I love to play the what's different now game. And the what's different now game is, oh, what's different now is I'm going to have a structure. I have, a roadmap. I have some more support. I have community, all these different things. So this is really fun. I'm so glad we're doing it together. We've never done this as a whole like episode like this. So very excited to take you through it. All right. So I am going to invite the team to keep dropping the workbook for those of you who are just getting here. And I'm going to just take us through verbally, and then we can look at the workbook a little bit as we go along so you can see where you'll plug in your answers. So the very first thing we want to do is just, if you want to close your eyes and just center into your calling and your desire and your purpose for writing this book. Okay, because that's going to align all the levels of us into this intention to get these manuscripts done with alacrity, done with joy, done with gusto, done with passion. All right, so I want you to just think about this book you've been called to write, wherever you are in the process, and what's important about it. Why are you saying yes to bringing this book forth in the world? Okay, so anchor yourself in that place. Why is it important to you, others in the world, that you do this book now? Okay. All right. So we're anchored. We kind of feel a connection to that. All right. Now, to make this process work, what we're going to do, like I said, is we're going to use a framework. And this is how I map out every time I'm going to do a book or create a course, create a program. This is similar to the process that I use. All right. So I'm going to show you what it looks like. Those of you that are watching along with us, you will see what it looks like. All right. So we're calling this the 90-day bestseller plan. You might choose a different period of time for your manuscript. You don't have to do 90 days. You don't have to, you can use this for a lot of things, but many of us are wanting to do a book in 12 weeks or a book in 3 months, right? And what's fun, if you're participating in this as we're recording it, is that we are coming up in just a week to the a new quarter of the year, right? We're coming up to the fourth quarter of the year, if you're doing this when it's coming out, and that's a new 90-day cycle. And so October 1st to December 31st is considered the Q4, the fourth quarter of the year. And so that's a powerful thing that we can use to galvanize our momentum and set some goals and reverse engineer some goals. Okay. So I want everyone, the first step in this process is for you to decide personally. Do not compare yourself to anyone else. All right. I want you to decide for yourself what is the amount of time you want to spend generating this manuscript. Okay. If you want to do it in 30 days, you are welcome to, and you can adapt this process to that. If you want to do it in 60 days, you can adapt the process to that. If you want to do it between now and the end of the year, if you're doing this process with us as we're recording it, you are welcome to do it from October 1st to December 31st. You might want to add it longer and do it over 6 months. All right. So I want everyone to just turn within, don't compare yourself to anyone else, and ask in your deepest inner wisdom, what is the time frame that you feel excited and aligned to commit to finish your book manuscript? So just tune into that. And those of you who are here live with us, if you want to put that in the chat, just to own that and say, this is what it's going to be. And you can adapt what the workbook prompts are to your time frames. I just want to see where everybody is that's doing this with us. Okay. So is it between now and the end of the year? You're going to say 90 days. If it's sooner than that, you're going to pick December 1st or whatever it is. Margaret, you're finishing in 60 days. Okay, great. Good clarity. Carissa's going for 90 days, Pascal 90 days, Janet 90 days. 90 days and available for it to happen sooner, Monica. Yes, of course, we can get on a roll and it can happen sooner. You can finish it before the winter holidays, a few weeks early if you want to. Okay. So if you're watching the replay, same thing. You're gonna decide what the number is for when you're going to do this project. Now, it's wonderful to say that. By New Year's Eve, this book is done. I'm feeling amazing. Or by Thanksgiving, or by, whatever the landmark is. Okay. But then how do we make this real? How do we make sure that it's going to happen? How do we put in the structures and pieces in place to follow through? All right. So what I want to guide us to next is how long you imagine you want your book to be. Those of you that are starting brand new, you haven't started writing yet, you're going to say, like, how long do I imagine this book is going to be? Is it going to be a 200-page book? Is it going to be a 100-page book? Is it going to be a 300-page book in your estimation? Okay. If you want to know how long, like average thought leader book, that type of thing, 200 is a really nice goal. 200, what does that mean on a Google Doc? Well, if you set it up per the publication standards, which is 12-point font, Times New Roman, double spaced, with 1-inch margins, it's about 300 words a page, somewhere between 250 and 300 words a page. Okay. So you can always, kind of have that in your mind. But I want you to estimate, those of you that are already into your book writing process, you are going to just take what's left. Okay. And that's what you're going to be working with. So if you're doing a 200-page book and you've already written 100 pages, what you're going to work with in this 90-day framework, or whatever your date is the next 100 pages. If you're just revising, right, you're going to decide how, what the revision plan is going to look like. All right. So you can adapt this kind of structure to any particular place you are in your project. If you're starting out from scratch, I want you to pick a length that you are going for with your book. And I want you, those of you live with us doing this live, I want you to put it in the chat. Okay. If you don't know, just pick something for now. If you really feel like that's messing with your head about number of pages, then I want you to think about chapters. If you say, okay, I'm going to do the SSS structure, for example, that I've taught you all, right? You say the first S is chapter 1, the second S is chapter 2, and then my solution, I'm going to have 10 solution chapters. So you have 12 chapters total. And you can have that be what goes in this box called the length of your book. So Pascal's going to go for pages, 180. Monica's going for 188. Shelley's going for chapters, 13 chapters. So you can go by number of chapters if that's easier to get your head around, or you can do page count. Okay. Yep. 60 days, Terry. You work well in urgency. I love it. And you're going to go for 160 pages. Okay. Beautiful. All right. Great. Yeah. Beautiful. So Carissa, who's doing this training live, right? You have 90 pages left. And so you're going to do 1 page a day between now and the October 1st and the end of the year. Beautiful. Beautiful, right? You can do it that way. All right. We've already done your ideal completion date. Those of you that chose 90 days or 60 days or whatever it is. All right. So that's the second part of your on the second question you asked. When do you want to get it done? How long is it going to be? Or what's left? Those of you that are midway. All right. And now we just want to remind ourselves, the number of weeks between now and completion. You have really 13 weeks if you're doing it right when we're recording this between now and the end of the year, right? We have a little bonus week because October 1st starts next week. Okay. So what you're going to want to think about if you were like, let's say I was starting a book completely from scratch. I want to do a 200-page book in 90 days. I have done this, by the way. Okay. What I do is I take out my calculator, right? And I'm going to take out my calculator and I say, okay, there's 200 pages divided by, let's give myself 12 weeks if I don't want to work like between, Christmas and New Year's, if I celebrate those holidays, right? So that's about 17 pages per week if I'm doing page count, right? And then I say, okay, great. So I'm writing about 17 pages a week. Okay, so in the third box of your workbook, you're going to write how many weeks are there, 12 or 13 or whatever number it is, 6 if you're doing it faster. And then you're say, how many either pages am I going to do? Or like, Shelley, you said you're going to do a 13 chapter book. There's 13 weeks between now and the end of the year. So it's a chapter a week. So you're just going to write in this third box, you're going to write kind of what are the things per week that we're going for. If it's page count, you take the number of pages total divided by the number of weeks, and you've got your how many pages a week. Right? And then you can kind of nerd out by saying, all right, I only want to write 5 days a week so that I have 2 days where I don't write. And so I'm going to divide that number per week by 5. And so I'm writing 3 pages a day, 5 days a week to get to a 200-page manuscript in 12 weeks. Okay, that's just an example. You can again adapt this to your 60 days, your 30 days, your 180 days, whatever you're doing. Okay, so the number of weeks that you've chosen for yourself, you're going to divide that by the remaining work. Again, it can be a chapter a week if you're going to do 12 or 13 chapters. Sometimes that feels easier to me than the page count because I just say, okay, it's a 13 chapter book. I'm starting this week. I have 13 weeks and I do a chapter a week, right? So you decide. And this is where you're going to come to the fourth box and kind of identify the key milestones along the journey. So milestones would be, either 20-page increments or chapters completed, or those of you doing revision, you might have what's called a punch list, right? Just these are the pieces I'm going to revise. Okay, so I want you to think about your key milestones. You can make key milestones a chunk of a certain number of pages. Like if the whole book is going to be 200, then maybe every 20 pages is a big milestone for you. Or maybe you want to have 4 key milestones, like 50-page increments. Okay, so decide for yourself, what are the milestones that you envision being able to let you know you're on track? It's a little bit of a different angle and a same question as number 3. When we look at how many weeks and what we're getting done each week, and I'm going to answer questions. So don't be concerned if this isn't feeling super clear yet. It's completely fine. All right. But the idea is to let us, so we don't just think about, oh, I have a book done in 12 weeks. What are the milestones, either chapter milestones, page count milestones, revision punch list milestones, so that I can kind of put the blinders on from the big picture and hone in week to week. Carissa, you're doing 1 page a day. It's going to be very easy for you to know at the end of each day if you wrote your page. Or if you're going to be traveling, you write 3 pages one day and then give yourself, that time off, right? So what are the milestones that are going to let you know that you are on track to hit that 60, 90, 100-day goal, right? So why don't we take a few minutes and just play around with that. If you need to get your calculator out to divide out, if you're doing page numbers, just sit with it and say, what are the mini steps leading up to that big finished manuscript that are going to let me know how I'm tracking? And then those of you who are doing this live with us, you can put milestones in the chat when you have identified what those milestones are, when you break down sort of the signposts between now and your completed manuscript. You don't have to say what they are if you don't want to. You can just say milestones, like I've got some clarity on that. Great. Okay, so here's some examples, right? Monica, you're going to complete 30 pages every 2 weeks. Super great clarity. Shelley, 30-day milestones. Yeah, and Shelley's saying, oh, I won't be able to do this without assistance. Yeah, so we're going to look at what is needed, what support is needed, what assistance is needed. Those of you in, Thought Leader Academy with us, you're going to have your you have your one-on-one writing coach and editor. You've got support, you've got the pods, you've got coaching with me. You have more than every week if you want to, put in your one-on-one sessions during this time. Carissa, you're going 7 pages a week. Okay, beautiful. All right. All right, amazing. All right, so we have milestones. And then what you're going to do is plot your milestones by week. Again, we've given you in this particular workbook, it's a 90-day workbook, so you'll see there's 12 weeks. You can adapt this and make a version with more weeks or less weeks, or just fill in the weeks if you're doing less. And what you're going to do is now import by week what you're going to do. So Chris is going to say, okay, week 1, I'm doing 7 pages, right? Monica's going to say week 1, 15 pages. Shelley, you're going to say week 1, 15 pages. And you're going to know that's the key. It's like, no matter what, I'm getting to 15 pages this week so that I get my 30 every 2 weeks. And so now I want you to go, we've chunked it down, kind of key milestones. Now we're going milestones by week. What are the things you will do every single week for these next 12, or you can adapt this to longer weeks to hit my goal? Okay, so let's fill those in now. Let's fill in what you're, so you just, all you're going to do is take what you set as your bigger milestones, and you're going to chunk them down one level deeper into your weekly commitment that gets you to the finish line. And when you've entered those into your workbook, or however you're doing this, digitally or handwritten, put weeks in the comments when you have done your weeks. You've identified what you are doing per week to have this done. And when you finish this part and you put it in by week, do you feel any differently, any better? You can see if you feel more sort of excited or empowered at saying, okay, each week, this is what I'm focusing on, versus, oh my God, I'm doing a book in 3 months, so just see if that changes anything for you. May or may not. And just see if it feels like, oh yeah, when I think about, this number of pages a week, that feels better than writing a 200-page book. It's like, okay. And again, even if chunking it down, but if you're only going to write 2 days a week and you're doing, 10 pages, 10 pages is your goal for the week and you're writing 2 days, you say, okay, for 2 days, I'm going to write 5 pages. I'm going to 5 pages on Saturday and 5 pages Sunday, because that's when I have time to write. And that's how I will do my book in 3 months. Okay. So just kind of notice for yourself if that changes anything, if it feels differently to you in any way. If it creates anxiety and it feels overwhelming, then either we can do some mindset work on the gremlins, that are going to get in, or we solve for what's creating the anxiety, like where am I going to find the time, or how am I going to be accountable? We're going to talk about both of those next, right? Or is it not set up in a way that is aligned, and do we want to tweak anything? So this is the time, take an energetic tune in right now. So everyone just uncross, if you've crossed any legs or arms, if you're breathing in a shallow way, what you want to do here is deep breaths, uncross everything. You can close your eyes, or you can just, really ground your feet and just tune into this and see if it feels aligned. See if it feels exciting. It might feel scary because you've never done it before. that's very normal. If you've never done this before and you've set this, this 12 weeks up, it could, could bring up a lot of stuff. So it doesn't mean anything's wrong or you can't do it if you're feeling a mixture of feelings. We just want to know what we feel so we can solve for that, support ourselves. Okay, you guys are doing great. All right, so the next step in the process is to think about what accountability structure you want to use to make this actually happen. We can write things in a form, we can write things in a workbook by week. It doesn't mean we're going to do it, right? So this is kind of like, what's it going to take? Like what is it, what kind of support accountability structure is it going to take? So this could look like, like one of you mentioned, I'm gonna put these sessions in my calendar. Like I'm gonna put in writing sessions. I need to block that time out in my calendar so I understand that in order to stay committed to these weekly milestones, like where is that going to actually happen? Maybe you realize, oh, I'm gonna get some mindset support because I'm not feeling like I can do this. Maybe it's I'm gonna have an accountability buddy. I'm going to, whatever you decide how you want to set this up. Now, those of you that have already been training with us in Thought Leader Academy for a while, you bring this to your pod. You can message your accountability buddies. You can bring it to coaching. You can, we obviously have some, you have Power Hour tomorrow. Like there's all kinds of places. If you're brand new, if you just are joining us in Thought Leader Academy, then you get to share this workbook. You're going to email it to us at care@sarahcannell.com because you don't have your accountability buddies and your pods and everything set up yet. And then we're going to facilitate some accountability for you and with you, sending you a weekly email, helping you know, here's what you're doing this week. Remember, we're here for you. What's it going to take, right? All right. So you're going to have a lot of accountability. Those of you who are training with us, that's built into this. Okay, great. So Margaret, you're going to update your weekly meeting with your accountability partner to include what your writing commitment is for the week, and you're going to share it with your pod. Beautiful. Again, if you're brand new working with us, you're going to send this, you're going to send your milestones to care@sarahcannell.com, and our team is going to support you and help remind you what's up every week and give you the support you need to show up for it, right? Yeah. And you can also message each other, those of you that are live here today. And, if you don't even want to wait for that, you can find someone and say, all right, we're in this together. Like Margaret and Terry, you're like, we're both doing 60 days. All right, let's support each other. Like Monica, Shelly, others of you doing 90 days, right? So there's so much support, but what's the accountability structure you're going to use? Either something that's worked for you in the past, like having a buddy or, having someone, email you, or if nothing's worked in the past and you're like, I haven't gotten this done before, then that's what we get to solve for, right? We get to create a new accountability structure that will work. So just take a minute there and brainstorm, again, asking your inner wisdom, asking your intuitive guidance, like what's the accountability that's going to make this inevitable? That's going to let this be the thing I absolutely follow through on. I hit my milestones and I hit my big goal. So those of you here live, put an A in the chat when you feel like I've identified the accountability. I think that's really going to help support me in sticking to this plan. Put A for accountability when you feel like I've identified, you may not have it all figured out how to get it, but it's like I've identified what that would be, what kind of accountability I would need. Let me know when you've got it. Okay, now before we go on to number 7 in your workbook, I want to talk about the time strategies. Okay, so those of you that train with us know this. You've been to our boot camps, you're in Thought Leader Academy with us, right? Some things that can be helpful here to remind ourselves are if time is a concern, like how am I going to get, I know what I'm supposed to do every week, but how do I find the time to do it, right? The one of the things you can use, right, is the time log, right? You're going to track your time for the next few days, especially if you're doing a 12-week plan. You've got this week as your setup week. right? This is your setup week to get clear on your book map, to get clear on, again, if you're starting, from the beginning, to get clear on your, you have through next Monday evening, right? Before the new 90-day cycle starts. So get clear on your book map and you're, getting your head around the structure and content of your book, your framework of your book, to figure out the time, right? That's what this week can be for. And then you have your full 12 weeks starting next Tuesday. Okay. So one of the things to think about is you can time record and just see, are there any things where the time is going that just aren't as important to you over the next 90 days? And you could swap them just for 90 days. Like, there's some other, types of commitments that you're in that you could say, hey, just for the next 90 days, I'm finishing a book, I'm writing a book. And so I'm gonna let these go temporarily so I can get this really important project done. That's one way, right? You might see things on your time schedule that are just, it's like, oh, we talked about, if you're watching 2 hours of, either looking at social media or TV or movies or something, you say, oh, I could swap, even one of those hours and go half and half. So I still have the relaxation and enjoyment, but I'm going to also have, an hour on those days to get the writing done. You might adjust when you wake up or go to bed. You might adjust any number of things, right? But we want to see what we're dealing with. If it feels like you just can't imagine where the time could come from, that's the first strategy you would do. Second time strategy is you can look at, oh, okay, I'm going to schedule, right? I'm going to actually block time to get these number of pages or chapters or however you decided your milestones are done every week. I'm going to put it in the way I would put in a very important appointment, like with a client or a medical appointment or a flight, where there's no way I would not show up for that appointment. I'm going to block the writing sessions in that same way. So the time log is number one. The time scheduling is two. And then you all know my favorite time strategy is to reclaim wedges that we would normally just use on something like zeroing our inbox, scrolling on social, setting up an Instacart order, talking longer with someone than, even though it's lovely, then, we could have a 10-minute call instead of an hour-long call and get 50 minutes back for writing. Waiting rooms, if you are going to use some of the expediting strategies like dictating your content first through an app like Otter or a dictation app, then you can reclaim time like workout time, driving time, folding laundry time, washing dishes time, like whatever it is that walking your dog time can actually be content generation, turning on the dictation app and recording next sections of content. So you're really working with a draft on a page instead of a blank page, right? So there's all kinds of ways that you can use wedges of time and get a lot of progress when you have 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, instead of thinking you need these long hour chunks of time. I've written most of my books in very short wedges. Okay. So thinking about like those strategies, if there's a concern about just the bandwidth that you have to make this a priority. So I want everyone to just take a moment and free write, make some notes or meditate on what type of time strategy is going to empower your commitment that you're making over this 90 days. Okay, so just make some notes there. Are you going to time log? Are you going to time schedule? Are you going to use wedges? All of the above. And then put time in the comments if you've identified how you're going to think about creating the space and time. Use one or more of those or some other awesome technique that you used around time. Yes, amazing. Some of you are having breakthroughs. I love it. Yay, celebrating Monica's getting a breakthrough, a way that feels natural. Beautiful, beautiful. We'll do some shares here in a moment. I want to hear all about that. That's so exciting. That is awesome. Okay, so we have some idea of how we're going to handle time. And again, those of you training with us, like this is what, if you're not sure and it still feels like, that's why you're having support every single week or more with us and the whole team to help you. Okay. Now, number 7, the 7th part of this process is how do you want to track your progress. This is really important for a couple of reasons. First of all, here's the neuroscience. Whatever we track increases. So if we're tracking words generated, pages written, chapters completed, revision punch list done, there is just a absolutely proven, scientifically proven phenomenon that whatever we track increases. So if you're tracking words, you're going to get more words down. You're tracking pages, more pages, chapters, revision, right? So we're going to track this progress. We're going to track your milestones. So it's like great to set the milestones, but then you're going to track when they're completed. Okay, I'm going to share with you some techniques I like to for this that really motivate me. All right. The second scientific reason we want to have tracking be a part of this process is because this is why social media apps were built the way they are. They are actually built to get dopamine hits, to get endorphin hits, to create positive, happy hormones in our brain when we do things. It's why we love to check things off a to-do list. It's very satisfying to know we're supposed to do something and then check it off, right? It's a very satisfying feeling. It gives us feel-good hormones. And so when we track things and we start to get to say, yeah, like I finished that page, I finished that chapter, I finished that section, I finished whatever it is, then we get these pleasure hormones in our brains and we want more of it because they're addictive. That's why we have likes and shares and all the stuff that are on social media. It's built to be addictive. In this case, we want to be addicted in a healthy way to finishing our books in the timeline we prescribe so that we can have the fulfillment and move forward to all the opportunities that the books open and the impact we get to make in the world, right? So we're going to use that neuroscience to empower and inspire and motivate us to keep going. And the third scientific reason that we want to dive in and make a tracking system as part of this process is because what the universe abhors a vacuum. Okay, the universe abhors a vacuum. What does that mean? It means that if you, and I'm going to offer to you to create a visual tracker. I want you to decide. You can use this workbook and draw something here. You can use a different kind of structure. But here's what I mean by a visual tracker. So I've coached people who've done this all kinds of ways. One of our clients, she loves visual, like coloring. She just enjoys it's like for relaxation. So she made like a coloring book image of the word write, WRITE. And every time she finished a chapter of her book, she got to color in like a piece, like she kind of made the map like 13 chapters long, and she colored in a section every time she finished a chapter. So by the end, she had this gorgeous, almost like stained glass coloring book thing that said write, and someone else did it in book, book, right? So if you like to color markers, pens, whatever, and that's exciting and you love that kind of thing, that's going to motivate you because you are going to want to color in. It's like compulsive, like, yeah, I want to color in all the sections. I've got this blank thing, I want to color it in. You can do a fundraising thermometer type of style. So if you've ever seen like a fundraiser, they have like one of these thermometers, this column, and every time a donation comes in, the column starts to fill. So we got $10,000 and now $20,000, and it fills up to the $1 million goal that they had. Well, you could have 13 chapters marked out on a fundraising thermometer kind of shape, or 200 pages, and then you're going to color in, right, every time. Some of you might be advanced and know how to do this digitally and create a cool thing. When we do our app at some point, it's already built into our schemata that we want to have, where it's going to be digital and send out, you're going to see it grow. And so you can do it however you want. You can do 13 hearts on a page, the way we teach the heart method in our sales process, right? You can have each chapter be a heart, and you get to color in a heart, or give yourself a heart every time you get one. You can put this on a wall-sized Post-it. You can use a whiteboard. You can use something on your phone. You can use a piece of paper. Okay, so you decide, because it's going to matter. The person who loves to color with markers is not going to like a whiteboard. The person that doesn't want to deal with that and loves the whiteboard, and whiteboards are really motivating for you, you're going to love the whiteboard. You want to use the medium that is most inspiring to you. Okay. And then I want to offer everyone to do a feedback loop and to use the Facebook group to celebrate whenever you hit your milestone each week. Because that is another reason that social media apps are addictive, is because you get positive feedback from others, right? So then it's like, oh, you hit your goal, Monica, oh my gosh, Shelly, Terry, Susan, oh, you guys are you guys are hitting your goals. This is so exciting. Way to go. You got that chapter done. Yay, Margaret. Yeah, and that is going to motivate us. This is human behavior. It has been studied, it has been proven. We don't need to reinvent. What's going to motivate me? This is what motivates us. Positive hormones, seeing things that to get filled up, getting cheers, getting celebrations, right? Whatever we track grows. These are things that we're going to use neuroscience. We're going to use human psychology. We're going to use all the things to keep us really motivated. In the outside world, we'll say the Muggle world, if you know the Harry Potter books, no one is cheering you on when you write a page. But in this world, we all know what a victory that is because it's real easy to not write a page. We can think of a million other things to do with our time that are really important, a lot of them. Right? And so we're going to have a feedback loop of positivity. Okay. So put T for tracking if this is exciting. You're going to commit to finding, or you're going to decide a way. Once you decide right now, what way are you going to do a color it in? Are you going to do a whiteboard? Are you going to do a, whatever you decide, what's the way you are going to track? And I want you to commit to celebrating. You don't keep it to yourself. When you hit one of your milestones, you celebrate it. Right? I'll be cheering you on every step because I know what a big deal it is to write anything. It's a big deal. And no one gets it. They just read a book and think, oh, they just wrote a book. And they don't understand it's like a big freaking deal to write at any point. Yes, celebrate. Okay, beautiful. Okay, amazing. All right. So speaking of celebrations, number 8 here, our final piece of this process. How are you going to reward and incentivize and celebrate yourself each week? Okay. This is back to neuroscience again. Pleasure bundling, research out of Johns Hopkins. When we reward ourselves for the action, not the big goal at the end, but the action, then we are motivated to keep going. And so it's not just like, oh, I'm going to treat myself when the manuscript's done. Yes, you will. That's awesome. Absolutely. But along the way, what I want to invite everyone to do as a homework is to write a rewards list. What are the healthy treats that you're going to give yourself every time you hit your milestone? Okay, this is another way to create a positive feedback loop. And if you've read the research from Johns Hopkins that I share with you all and are training with us all the time on pleasure bundling, when you do the action that maybe feels challenging or new or whatever it is, where there's resistance, and then you give yourself a pleasure bundle, not only are you motivated to do the thing to get the treat, right? That's how we train animals. We're animals, we're training ourselves, but much more excitingly, you are rewiring your brain to actually like the action that precedes it. You'll actually look forward to the writing. It's been proven. Neuroscience, we're reprogramming. You're going to create a new neural pathway where you love doing this. You enjoy it. Most of the time, you're here for it. You're like, let's go write. This is fun. This is exciting. This is inspiring. Okay. So you're going to think about, you do not have to spend money. This does not have to be money activities. My rewards list for writing is usually a walk outside or a long guided meditation that I treat myself to, a hot bath, a call with a friend, reading for pleasure, watching a show. Like none of those things have to, beyond your basic cable subscription, if you're watching a show or your streaming app, none of those things have to cost anything. Yes, if you want to and reward yourself with a special meal or getting some kind of a body work treatment or whatever it is, wonderful. Absolutely do it. But I did this when I was broke to get myself to writing. I did this when I had no discretionary income. I was like, can I buy shampoo? I'm not sure. I mean, that's where it was, okay, at a certain point. So none of this has to be about, spending money. It is about what do you love and find pleasurable that you can use to create a new neural pathway so that you show up and do the writing and enjoy it even at a certain point, maybe not right away. All right. So you're going to celebrate. And I want to share the story of a man, his last name was Helmsley. He was an insurance salesman. And what was really interesting is that he was really terrible at his job, just the worst. And he was put on notice that he was going to be fired from his insurance sales job. He had children, a wife. It's like, I feel like all these stories from like the, 70s, 60s, 50s are always like, it's some guy who's a salesman who has like 5 kids and like his wife doesn't, it's like always that guy, right? I just always picture this like Willie Loman kind of, but anyway, the point is, this is a real human being. His last name was Helmsley, and he worked at this company and he was going to get fired. And it was really high stakes because it's like he had no means to support himself, his family, food. It wasn't like, it was like that level of serious. And he just couldn't get himself over the rejection. He would go door to door and just people were like, get out of here. I don't want it. No. And just, it was just awful. And he just was feeling so crushed and demoralized. And then, of course, his energy was even more, contracted, right? It wasn't a very powerful, confident energy. It's like, I've got to do something. And in his desperation, what came to him was he had to find a way to incentivize the action, incentivize the number of offers he made. He couldn't wait to like incentivize himself when he made a sale because it was just too demoralizing to put all the power in like whether someone else that he couldn't control says yes or no. So he started this thing and he said, okay, I'm going to give myself 10 weeks. That's how long I have before I get fired. I have 10 weeks. And every week I'm going to give myself an increasing reward when I do the certain number of sales calls, just the outreach, just making the offer. When I make this many offers, the first week is whatever, the second week is, a meal, the third week is I get to, have a day off and I'll bundle my offers earlier. The third, I'm going to take my wife on a date, like whatever it was. Okay. So he built up these 10 rewards that got increasingly bigger in value to him. And all he needed to do to get the reward was to make the offers. Didn't depend on if someone said yes. He's like, I have to get my attention on the end of it, the end result, right? The outcome. He focused on action. And that's what we're talking about here, because you will have your manuscript done in 90 days if you hit your milestones. We've already done the math, right? And so what happened, no one will be surprised, because if anyone's telling the story, obviously something good happened for him, is that he started making sales. The first 2 weeks, nothing, 3 weeks, nothing, but he just kept saying, all I'm going to do is work this plan. If I get fired, I'm going to have to figure it out. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to work this plan. And he gave himself the rewards, even though he didn't make any sales. And by week 4, he made a sale. And 5, he made a few sales. And 6, he made more and more. At the end of the 10 weeks, he had saved his job. And at the end of 6 months, he became the top performer in his entire company. And he went on to teach this strategy to all of his people that worked under him, and the company really grew. Okay, so obviously we wouldn't be talking about him if he did this and it didn't work, but I want to offer it to you just a way to see how like the incentivizing the small milestones and the action versus the end outcome is really, really, it can be a game changer, it can be important. Okay, so that's our 8-step process, right? We're getting clear on, you want to do a book in 90 days or whatever your number is. You're going to say, what's my time frame? 90 days. How long is this book going to be? You're going to take the length you're estimating, the number of chapters or pages. You're going to divide that by the number of weeks. We're using 12 weeks as our example. You're going to identify the big milestones within the goal of finished manuscript. Every week, you've got your very clear to do. What do I need to do this week? I don't have to think about anything else. Just this week, what am I doing? You decide what accountability is going to have you actually show up and make good on that commitment by week. You're going to create a tracking system that's going to motivate you using the positivity feedback loops. You've got your bonus, the time strategies, we just kind of discussed to get it done, right? And then you're going to reward yourself for the action and the milestones so that you stay motivated and create that neural pathway. All right, so that's our process. So we're going to take our last few minutes to, if there are any questions, if there's any questions that have emerged, like, oh, I wonder how to apply this, or I'm not sure how this could be, worked for my project, or if you had a breakthrough, you can share that. Okay. So let's talk about who, just before we open up, just take a few, we'll take about 7 minutes for questions. What opened up for you in this process? Does anyone feel more clear on what they're going to do over the time frame you put clear in the chat? If you feel more clear about how this can work, how you're going to break it down, what you're going to do each week. how you're going to stay accountable, how you're going to be motivated, right? So just see if you feel more clear. And if you don't, those of you coaching with us, then you're gonna, bring it to coaching and we'll get clear. Yeah. All right. Shelly's feeling more clear. I love it. Terry, feeling more clear. Margaret, clear, and you're committed to make it happen. I love that. More clear. All right. That's the goal. Yes. Are there still moments of resistance? Are there still things to figure out? Of course. That's why you're not doing it alone. Okay. Really good job. Anybody have, Monica, do you want to share your breakthrough that came through?
Yeah, I would love to. So, speaking is sort of my first love, and hosting retreats as well is something that comes extremely natural to me. And one thing that I'm going to toot my own horn, and I've received a lot of positive feedback about this from my students and clients, is that like I can kind of create this red thread to hold the event, right? And
Mhm.
so I know how to take a multi-day event and create an experience that guides people from start to finish really seamlessly. And so my breakthrough, because I'm really kind of drawn towards using the dictation apps since speaking is easier for me than writing. And I'm like, what if I treat my book like a retreat where like people are arriving on day one and I'm taking through all this content that builds upon itself to get to the end result. And it was like a light bulb moment. And I think it's really going to help.
Yes, the book,
Yeah.
it's the retreat in a book.
Yeah.
Yes, you imagine that they're coming, right? And again, those of you that want to use the dictation, and we can't send our dictation transcript to our editors, right? Our writing coaches, we got to then clean it up on the page and make sure it reads like, book form. And Mike, you got it. Take them on a
Mhm.
retreat through the book. How fabulous. And that's already like in your sleep. I get that a million, like I could do that in my sleep, like I know I love it. I know how to do it. It comes naturally. Beautiful.
Yay.
Just congratulations. That's awesome. Yeah, Shelley, using the dictation app is your breakthrough. I wrote my last book in 6 weeks because of using that strategy, right? And I'm finishing one by the end of the year. I'm co-writing one right now, and then and I'm finishing it by the end of the year. And I'm going to be doing the same process. I'm just breaking down what has to happen by week to have it done. Yeah, beautiful. Anybody else, either a breakthrough or a question? Yes. It's such a game changer. It's such because you're never facing the blank page. Like you already have something and you're already working on a second draft at almost the time. And I did all my dictations either walking, working out, or driving. All of it. I just got it all during things. This is like what James Clear calls habit stacking, right? It's like take the thing you're already doing. I'm already driving to get my son, or I'm already taking a walk, or I'm already, doing the treadmill or whatever it is. And so those are already happening in my day. I don't have to find more time because those are times I already have. And then I just habit stack getting the writing content done. And then yes, I built in the extra times to go and clean it up and take the tags off and make it full sentences and polish it up. Yeah. So exciting. I'm so excited for all of you. Okay, great. So we feeling good? We feeling fired up? Let's rub our hands together. Let's get the right and left hemisphere of the brain cooking and cranking. All right. And remember, this is the thing to bring. If any piece of this 8-step process didn't gel yet, didn't come together yet, then that's what you're going to get your next coaching on, right? All right, we've got this. All right, we're gonna conclude here in about 1 minute so that you can get writing. Who is going to write today between now and the time you go to bed? Like as you're, this is a prep week. If you're doing a 12-week plan, you've got this week to figure out your timeline. Those of you that are still book mapping, as you're doing, I mean, that's all good, right? But some of you are going to write today. Yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Absolutely awesome. Okay, phenomenal. So we know what we're doing. We know yep, some of you're booking that on the calendar. We're off to the races. All right. And remember, if you've just joined us, then email your plan, your milestones to care@sarahcanal.com, right? And we will, since you don't already have your pods and your accountability buddies and everything all set, we will be your accountability by week and then get you plugged into all that stuff. Okay. All right, great job. Phenomenal job. Amazing job. You're awesome. All right. I know we've got a lot more wonderful things coming up this week. So congratulations. And I know all of you that are not in the live audience today watching, we are, yeah, it can be in any way you like. Any way you like. Yeah. Okay. So good. You've got this. Let's go out there and get these books done. Can you imagine? Let's just seal this. Ready? We're going to use a neuro-linguistic programming technique to seal this in. Imagine you've reached the day that you've set, 60 days, 90 days, you've reached that date, and you are sitting there and you've just typed the end, the end of your manuscript. You've done it. You have had that moment that every writer knows is so delicious. The end. I completed this manuscript. It's ready to go to the next phase of my thought leadership journey. Imagine that happening. Feel how you feel. Dial up the feeling. Think of the one primary emotion you feel when this has happened. And then just every day after you do whatever action you're taking on your book, just step into the feeling. Put yourself at that finish line, enjoying all the wonderful, delicious feelings of accomplishment and fulfillment and excitement about what's next. Lock it in. Deep breath. And so it is. You've got this. All right. We'll see you next training. Great job, everyone. Bye.